For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love. Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work. Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating tonight? As you all know, those of you who are here for the first time, my show is about celebrating life, celebrating the arts. I believe that every day is worth celebrating if we take the time to do so. And this evening has a very special place in my heart because Grey Gardens happens to be a favorite documentary of mine and, of course, the Broadway musical. And we're going to be celebrating that tonight and talking all about that. Just a couple of days ago, we had the Marble Fawn himself on the show, Jerry Torrey. He was already scheduled to be on the show. And then I get a phone call, an email actually, from Glenn Rosenblum. And Glenn said that they were doing a production of Grey Gardens and asked if I could do an evening devoted to this. And I said, well, Glenn, I'm already going to be interviewing Jerry. And if we could do it 2 days later, because I had nothing on the calendar for tonight. And Glenn got the cast round up. And here we are. Glenn, congratulations.
Thank you.
One night only.
I know. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? I would say blame Actors Equity, but not exactly. But maybe a little, you know.
It's a lot of work for one night.
It's a wonderful theater company that we have. We've been in existence I think we're celebrating our 25th year, but because of COVID, we're in our 27th season, if that makes sense. Yeah. And, you know, we hold the script in our hands when we perform. Here's mine right here.
Well, it's like our New York version of Encores.
It is. And Encores puts it down. I guess they must be on another contract, so they're able to put it down. But we really have to hold ours. It's like a must. Mm-hmm. It's part of the directing process that we must hold them. And it's very exciting because we have 29 hours to rehearse it and put it on at the glorious historical Alex Theater in Glendale.
Now, I have to ask, I understand that this is your last performance or production at the Alex Theater.
Yes, we are looking for a new venue.
Now, yes. Why are you leaving the Alex Theater, if I may ask?
The Alex Theater is under new management, and they're going in another direction. And, you know, Richard, you would love the Alex Theater. Do you know the history of it? In the 40s, it was considered an out-of-town tryout for movies.
Wow.
And they tried the movie Mildred Pierce there. How do you like that?
Can you imagine being in the audience? And they also questioned the audiences in those days.
Right.
About their feelings in the direction the films were going in. And films were actually altered based on the audience response.
Yeah. So it's a glorious old theater. It's like a real Hollywood movie palace in Glendale. And it's been turned into a beautiful theatrical venue. And Musical Theater Guild has done all sorts of gems over the years. And we were so excited to get the rights for Grey Gardens. You know, Grey Gardens has only been done once in the LA area at the Amundsen. A few years ago was the production that came from the Bay Street Theater in York.
I saw Betty Buckley and Rachel York.
Yes, and Rachel York.
If either one are watching tonight.
So it's another chance to visit this wonder. I'm from Long Island, so I remember the story, even though I was in junior high school, but those were the kinds of stories I was into. So we got Newsday, Jerry Torrey, if you're watching. I remembered the story in Newsday, and I can remember my parents talking about how could that be Jackie Onassis's relatives. Mm-hmm. I just remember that from junior high school, that was a topic of conversation in our house. Like, how did that happen? And how are they only 2 hours away from where we live? We lived in Massapequa, so the Hamptons were another 2 hours. So it's been a fascinating story, and I'm thrilled to partake in it for one evening. You know, I'm playing the part of Gould, the pianist.
Mm.
And I'm excited about that. And I do play the piano, so it's very exciting. And we have a wonderful cast, just a wonderful cast with
So
some
let's talk
Broadway veterans.
about the older Mrs. Beale. And I only say older because you got a very young actress to play the part.
Oh,
Yes.
she's gonna love you.
Well, she's been on the show before.
I know. Oh, she's going to send you to Tahiti for a week after that.
I love her so much. I am
Who
such a fan
doesn't?
of hers.
Get in line. Get in
But
line.
I have to
mister.
ask, is she a masochist? Because not only is she doing this show, but on Valentine's Day.
Oh no, actually, it's this Saturday.
No, this Saturday night, on my birthday, I might add, she is doing a Valentine's Day celebration at the El Portal Theater in LA.
In North Hollywood. Yeah, well, she is a masochist. And there's a second masochist because our director of Grey Gardens, Kirsten Chandler, is directing Eileen Barnett.
Well, let's bring them both on then.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
Eileen,
Hello.
congratulations and congratulations, Kirsten. And I'm sure you got your hands full. And I got you all. How did I get you tonight in the midst of all this?
Well, the show's not till Saturday, so
We don't rehearse.
I love you for saying I'm too young to play the role. You know, this took me an hour to look like I was too young to play the role. But I have let the gray come in, and
Gray is in. Gray is in.
And I won't be wearing this makeup or wearing pretty clothes. You know, I'll look the part. I promise.
So, I want to start with you first of all, Eileen. What is your earliest or your first recollection of Grey Gardens? And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the documentary. I whenever it was that it came out, I guess, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's so hard to believe these two women are actual people, and that they weren't, I don't know, play acting something, but it's just so incredible that they lived like this. I still don't understand how they lost everything and ended up living in rat infested. I mean, it's just the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I first heard of it. And then when I heard they were doing a musical of it many years later, I thought, well, that's going to be interesting. And will it work? But it does. It's a wonderful show. It's wonderful. And they took so much of the lyrics and the scene work right from the documentary. I mean, it's just right from it, word for word sometimes.
It's pretty brilliant.
Jerry, the marble faun himself, there's an incredible book, The Marble Faun of Grey Gardens, which I hope that everyone will read in addition to this. And we were talking the other day, and he's on tonight, by the way, everyone. He's going to be coming on in a few minutes.
The real Jerry.
Jerry, I said it's very interesting when you see these iconic characters, women on stage, on film, and also in the HBO movie with Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange. I think there's something that separates us from the reality that these were two human beings. And, which Jerry and I talked about a couple of days ago. Kirsten, when you've got to put together something, you must feel as if you have a speeding locomotive coming right at you. What is your process for this evening, and how did you get involved, by the way?
Well, so many questions. So, approaching MTG shows, this is actually the 5th one I've done, and I adore directing for MTG. It's a very unique process, and it's not the same as putting up a full-scale musical. What's interesting is that in some ways the prep is more intense. It's a different kind of preparation, but my job is first and foremost to let the show be heard and seen and understood. It's not like I can envision a set or can envision, you know, people say, what's your vision? Well, it's different for MTG because I just want it to be represented as it was written, so that audiences can see and hear it, because it's fascinating. It's amazing. But I love, this is my kind of musical. I remember that when I first saw, I think my first exposure to anything having to do with the Edies was I saw Christina Ebersol's performance on the Tonys. And
Yes.
and I just was like, what is this? And then I did a deep dive and watched the documentary. And that was, I'm talking years ago, when it was up for a Tony, which was, Glenn, when was that?
What year? You know everything.
2000.
2009, 11, maybe, something like that.
2000, I don't know. But yeah, somewhere around there. So it was quite a while ago.
To me, it feels like last year, but I know it wasn't.
It does. But anyway, this is my kind of musical, you know, like the big opulent, like, you know, things that I love all musicals. Well, not all, but
Are you ready, everyone? It was
favorite
2006.
Oh, there you go.
6. Wow.
Oh, I had
My
to count on my
favorite
fingers.
musical.
17 years?
Yes.
What?
Wow. Yeah. No, it's like, it feels like it was yesterday, but we did lose like 2.5 years to the
Yes.
pandemic.
That's
Okay.
true. Which
Yeah.
throws everything off.
Anyway, I was just going to say that I love musicals that study, like, I don't know, human psychology and you know, like I remember seeing clips from Next to Normal on the Tonys and going, it's my kind of show. You know, it's that kind of stuff that I'm sort of just drawn to as a human being. And so, and I also think it's really interesting to musicalize something like that. So that's what fascinates me about Great Gardens. And I think what's interesting about it is that it fleshes out, you know how, Eileen, you said something about, I can't believe these people existed, but the musical somehow lets you climb into their world, and even in an imagined headspace in the first act, but really sort of provides some sort of psychological background for how this might have happened, which is, I don't know, I just feel so deeply for them by the end of the show, which is really interesting.
Well, why don't we bring on the man who knew them personally, and that's
Yes.
Jerry.
You know, the Marble Fawn is here again. Thanks.
Glenn.
1 week, Jerry. I'm
Eileen, Tristan. Hi.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Jay. Thank
Hi,
you for
Eileen.
joining
Hi,
us.
What was it like,
Glenn.
Jerry? I want to know everything.
Oh boy.
What
I
were they
would-
like? What were they? Did they hate each other? Did they love each other? What was it like to be around them?
Mrs. Bill and her devoted daughter Edie were their closest targets. They had no one to interfere with their emotions, as raw and as vital as they were to each other. They would frankly bicker over ridiculous things. Oh, that was me. Hi, baby. Look how young I was. Oh, no.
Oh my God.
Well,
Now,
they would,
everyone, I just want to remind everyone, Jerry was 16.
yes.
Um,
I was 16 years old. It's over 52. How many years ago? I'm 68. Thank God for film. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't know who I was talking about. But I remember the film and the lovely Mrs. Bill and Edie. What were they like? They were never boring, I can tell you that. They entertained each other with the history of their lives. Mrs. Beale's fascination with the arts and history. Kristen and Eileen and Glenn, and I'd be formal here because my respect for Mrs. Beale and Edie are paramount.
Wow.
They endured, well, I'm going to go back to the history that I learned through Mrs. Beale and her daughter Edie. I never knew, well, I was a runaway from Brooklyn, okay? What did I know? And I landed at the front door of this very private residence in the middle of East Hampton town, which is exclusive. And I knock on the door. Fate had walked me to the front door. Big deal. But I met Mrs. Bill and Edie, and my life, sort of everything I knew up to then, didn't make any difference anymore. My fascination was beyond that because I worried, was concerned for their safety in the house. You see the mansion after it's cleaned up. I was there before it was vintage. It was I call vintage Grey Gardens. There's so much to share with you. There's also a lot of energy. So if I'm scattered and rushing about, it's because I want so much to explain what I know, and I thought you would help portray their personalities.
I want to reiterate what Jerry is saying here. When we see the film of Grey Gardens, what he is referring to is the house that we see, as strange as it is for us to experience that. This was after they had cleaned it up a little bit.
Right.
My
That's
God.
why they refer to this as vintage. It's in the book, but how they refer to this as vintage Grey Gardens.
Wow.
It was even more exotic, let's use that word, before the film crew began their work on it.
Wow, that's amazing. Jerry, you said you loved Mrs. Beale.
Oh, yes.
What made you love her? Because when I see the documentary, I just see her being so critical of her daughter, and tell me about that.
She once Edie and I met at the front porch that morning. The following morning, I arrived and was invited back, and no less upstairs to meet Mrs. Beale's mother. I remember walking up the stairs, and cats are scurrying every which way, and cobwebs were landing on my face and my hair, and I hear the bellowing of cats. And I could definitely, no kidding, smell the mansion. It was pungent, and my eyes were tearing. And I, of course, worried. I didn't worry. I thought, how on earth did anybody breathe this air? But it was very fascinating. Besides fascinating, when I walked into the sunroom, the room Mrs. Beale and Edie had that big argument about with the quiche Lorraine, that breakfast, I refer to that. We knew it as the sunroom. It was in that room Mrs. Beale was reclining on a tattered chaise lounge, and with her hat on, and cat over there, raccoon tail from the ceiling, hanging from the ceiling. And it was a complete oddity, and it was a mess. But she turned to me and said, "Young man, you need to eat a boiled potato and a green salad and broiled chicken to remain as beautiful as you are today, to maintain that beautiful face." And I was astonished by her fair and honest and kindness. And I looked around, and I didn't want to be disrespectful and not speak directly to Mrs. Beale, but I was distracted by all the madness going on around me. And I just said this. I said, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I'm a gardener down the road at Mr. Getty's. If you need any help with the property, I'm here. I don't want to be paid. I would like to help you. And I meant that sincerely. I didn't care to get a salary. I was just one, to tell you the truth, I was so fascinated. They trusted me to no less go in the mansion after how many 35 years of no one visiting or wanting to be visited by. And I was then invited and trusted. And Mrs. Beale and I got along famously because she was very kind to me. And I felt very much at home and safe. And I hope she did too with me. So my relationship was based on protecting and being loved. I loved being loved. And that really warmed me because I had a very rough childhood, not by my mom, but my father was rough. You know, old Italian way of living. But I ran from that. But Mrs. Beale comforted me, no less in the isolation of that mansion. And deplorable, yes. The conditions were unreal. Vintage Grey Gardens, as Richard just mentioned, is nothing compared to the film you see now, presently. There was wallpaper on the walls going up to the second floor. There was striped wallpaper. And after years of rainwater racing down the wall, collecting behind the wallpaper, it accumulated water, and it kept the water in a bubble along the wallpaper.
Wow.
And frankly, it was green, the water, and I could have sworn I saw things swimming in that water. And of course, I tore the wallpaper, and so it would drain away. But that alone was untouched. And all of this meant so much to me as far as mystery. I would say, how on earth do you not clean this hallway or sweep this or do that? But I didn't do that. I didn't question their lifestyle. I was a guest, my friends. I wasn't going to say, how could you this and how could you that? It was fire that scared the life out of me.
Yeah.
Jerry, I want to jump ahead in our story.
I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. There's just so much to cover tonight.
Yep.
But I want to ask you, when did you first hear that this was going to be turned into a musical?
Oh boy.
What were your thoughts about that? I mean, because this was real life for you. It's more than a movie. What were your thoughts when you originally heard that this was going to be turned into a musical?
Before the musical was even read, and it was at the Guggenheim Museum, and before all of the activity began, I was driving a New York City taxi cab. And one evening, it's in the book, you might read it, a customer hails me. I pick her up on the corner of West 43 and 9th Avenue, and she has a tripod and a camera, and I'm the chatterbox of the world, and I'm glad to have an English-speaking customer who I engage with right away, because I know if I check in with my customers, I can find out if they're going to hurt me or they're crazy or not, or what's the story. I had to know who was in the back seat. And I did begin a conversation by saying to my customer, are you in the film industry? She said, yes. One word led to another, and I said, have you ever heard of Grey Gardens? Yes. Well, I'm the young guy, I was from the movie, the younger guy. And she looked at my license and said, you are Jerry. I said, yes, I've been Jerry since I got in this cab this afternoon. I always was silly, always will be. But she said to me, in a moment after, she sort of went silent and then wrote down on a piece of paper Albert's phone number and address. And she said, you need to call Albert as soon as you can. He and I have been working on charcoal briquette commercials, and he and I worked together. And I said, how's David? And sadly, I learned that David had passed away in the 60s, early 70s. But I did call Albert the following morning, and his secretary, Michelle, answers, Jerry, you need to come here. Al's waiting to speak with you. I spoke with him. He invited me by. I went up to the West 54th Street with my taxi cab. And when I turned the corner, there were film trucks. And Albert was amongst all the confusion in West 54th in front of the old West 54th Street studio. Studio 54. It was always a madhouse. And there's trucks and I can't park and I'm frustrated. Is this going to be real? Am I going to meet him after all of the... He was there, his little round eyes and his silver hair, but I recognized him from his eyes. And he recognized me through the windshield, and we embraced, and we were choked up for a while. But he gets into my cab as a passenger. We went off duty, we drove around Midtown a good 2 hours, yapping. He was telling me, Jerry, they're taking Mrs. Beale's film and Edie's film and making it into a play. And I sort of chuckled. I said, someone's going to play Mrs. Beale and Edie? And how on earth? I mean, I don't know from theater. I know where they're located. But who on earth is going to... Okay, I believe you. And one thing led to the other. I had been reunited with Al. I went back to the mansion after 40 years or so and saw the mansion. It was quite a nice journey. And I was a guest once again by the renter. But Albert told me, and he was right, the play was not a play. It was going to be a musical. And I went and I was taken back. It was a Playwrights Horizons. Christine Ebersole was playing Edie and Mrs. Beale too. And all these famous, wonderful artistic people. And I walked into the first show. I didn't know I was late. I didn't know anything. And the audience stood up and applauded. And I said, my friend Wayne was with me, God bless him. And he said, someone's very important because they stopped the show and they're applauding. And they happened to be looking up at us over here. And they were applauding he and I. And I was taken away. This is just too intense. Did you bring the almond joy bar that I bought? Because I need to do something. I had to eat something. It was real. It was all very real. And I had my
Jerry,
almond joy bar.
Jerry, did you actually, did she make you corn?
Yes. And here's how that
Good. And the man
Eileen.
who made that song come alive is here.
Oh,
Michael
Oh.
Corey.
Oh, Michael
Yay!
Corey. Oh, good. There's the
So
man.
nice to see you, my
Hey,
good
everybody.
Say that from
Jerry.
Hey.
Jerry, how great to see you.
Oh, nice to see you. You look
And
well.
Jerry, I have some news for you.
Oh.
Jerry loves my corn. Is being taught at the Columbia School of Humanities as an introduction to leader song.
Wow.
And I was so surprised, but I said, okay, whatever. But we've made it into academia, Jerry.
Wow.
Gee whiz. Michael, congratulations. And I will always admire you and the cast and the crew and Scott and Michael, Corey, Doug Wright. You transformed the story in our lives, I'm left to tell you, into a beautiful work of art. The very venue Mrs. Beale and Edie sought all their years of isolation, corridors frozen in the winter, singing to themselves in the bedroom, you transformed their dream into a reality. And I will never, ever be able to thank you and the crew for your expertise in doing that.
Oh, Jerry, you were so wonderful. You met the whole cast. You advised the person who was playing your character. You
The
became
poor guy.
part of that Grey Gardens musical family. And it was weird to have living people in a show. I think it might have been the first documentary musical that anyone, and we got a lot of, what are you talking about? How can you do that? But
Oh boy.
I think that, Mrs. Beale's love for Jerry, the love for the daughter, that I think Doug came up with an expression about how parents both inflict and heal the wounds of growing up. And
That's right.
they had underneath it all, there was such love and such simpatico and such strength. But I do, Albert told us too, when we started this, you'll be tempted to take sides and say one or the other one is more right than the other.
Huh.
He says, don't take sides. They're both right.
Yes.
So we kind of use that as our credo for the whole thing.
Beautiful. I'm waiting to
Because it's true what you're saying, Eileen, that Mrs. Beale came off as pretty tough on her daughter. But then when we went back to the history, we found that her father had been tough on her.
Oh,
Her
Trisha.
husband and her sons.
Right.
And she was really not allowed to pursue her dreams and not allowed to pursue her love of music. And I think that part of the sternness that she expressed towards little Edie was that she wouldn't be hurt the way the mother had
Well said.
by her parents. And so I think we didn't know what we were doing. We went into this thing, but we had Edie's blessing. Little Edie at that point was living in Florida, if you recall, Jerry. And Albert wrote her and said, these fellows want to make a musical of Grey Gardens. And she wrote back a letter that said, I'm thrilled about G.G. the musical. There must be music. There must be dancing. It must be historical. My beloved mother, please send the big safety pins. I can't get them in Florida.
Yes. She did.
And that note is now at the Lincoln Center Library for the Arts.
So good.
Oh, wow.
She did have to give her permission, and she loved the idea. She loved the idea because what she said about the documentary was that as wonderful it was, she wanted to have more singing.
She
So
did.
we hope we made up for that.
She's beautiful. I love knowing that. She said that. Thank you, Michael.
Well,
was
we
so
just brought
supportive. We were
young
supposed to go down to meet her actually, but we passed away. She passed away just before. And Doug came to the decision that we would honor them by not quoting them exactly, as in the documentary, but by writing in the style that they spoke. And Doug said, and the famous quotes that people know, you put into the lyrics.
Nice.
That will kind of stylize, and then it won't just seem like we're pirating the documentary. So Doug was very clever about how he wrote things that really sounded like them, but weren't quite what they said. And then I was slavish about quoting them.
Great. And I'd like to introduce Trisha, who is playing young Edie. And
Hello.
you were stuck in traffic, so I'm glad.
Yes, I'm so sorry, but this is fascinating. I've been here for probably about the last 15 minutes, so I've caught a lot of it, and it's so nice to meet you on the screen, Michael and Jerry. And Eileen, I haven't met, and Glenn and Richard. I haven't met anyone except for Kirsten. so this is wonderful. I'm so excited.
When did you first
Congratulations to you for portraying these incredible women. And of course, they're not easy roles. You know, when we wrote them for these actresses, and Christine kept saying, "Give me more." And so it's now a very challenging score, a lot of singing.
Really challenging for Trish. Yeah, I mean, it's really a bear of a role. My God.
Right, and all of them, young little Edie, big Edie, they all have their moments.
Yeah.
And then the ensemble is very important too.
Yes.
Hi, Joe.
Edie. There's a little Edie.
There's little Edie.
Trisha, I want to ask you, how did this come about for you? Were you called in? Did you hear about an audition? How did it happen for you?
Well, I just recently joined the Musical Theater Guild, so very excited to do that. I worked with Kirsten on a production of The Addams Family at 5-Star Theatricals in Thousand Oaks.
And she was fabulous.
Unbelievable.
Well, it was a dream show, dream cast. We had such a good time. Kirsten was an amazing director. Was all, as everything is these days, everything's fast and furious. And, still with, COVID still being very, very much a thing, there were a lot of hurdles and things to overcome, but it was an incredible production. And Tal and I go way back to New York days when we did this crazy reading together. So I've known Tal for a long time. And she talked to me. A lot of people had talked to me about the Musical Theater Guild, and I kept wanting to join, and finally this was the opportunity. So I joined. They said they were doing Grey Gardens and asked if I was going to audition, and I said yes, but I can't come in person because I had another crazy project that I'm doing. But I put myself on tape, and I just love this show so much, and the music is so complex and interesting, and the story, I mean, there's so much there that for somebody like me, this is like a dream to get to sink my teeth into. And Christina Ebersol is an icon for me. I love her. And just to be able to have the opportunity to do this and so quickly is just a gift.
Of any actor or actress is to be in a show that hopefully will have a long run. You went into this knowing it was for one night only.
Yeah.
So you hit your stride, and then it's done.
You don't even hit your stride when you do MTV shows.
No, I think but again, it's just any opportunity for me that I get to perform and do something with, I think I can speak for all of us who performed, that it's just such a gift. So, and these kinds of roles don't come around often. And so to be able to do it is just everything. Even if it's only for one night, but the hope is always that people will go, oh yeah, let's do Grey Gardens again.
Yes.
What I mean, that it'll spark that interest again because it's such an incredible story.
Oh.
So that's the hope. That
Yeah,
people
usually
don't-
I will throw in too.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to throw in that these auditions were so unbelievable and that's weeks and weeks before the actual concert goes up. It was like a master class in acting and breaking down and I don't even know how to. There's not enough superlatives to tell you what just the audition tapes or live auditions were like. It was just a sumptuous feast. All of you.
And Paul, how did it come about for you?
Oh, well, I've been a member of Musical Theater Guild for a few years, and I'm actually part of the executive committee of Musical Theater Guild right now with Eileen. And so we knew this show was an option for us. We were so excited to be able to get the rights to do it for one night. And
Thank you, Michael Corey.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So basically, I did know a little bit in advance that this was happening, but everyone in our company, as well as people outside of our company in Los Angeles, audition. And as soon as we got Kirsten, honestly, attached to direct, it was like dreamy. And I was just excited about the possibility of, honestly, a show with such strong female characters and this deep family bond and huge devotion between women and frustrations and the depth that was so tangible in this piece. I actually, I did see it at the Amundsen with Rachel York and Betty Buckley, but that was really the first time I heard the music live. I've listened to the soundtrack before and all that, but it was calling to me in some sort of way to be a part of it. I'm really thrilled
Isn't that beautiful?
with this group of people. And one night, it totally is a whirlwind, but it is going to be really exciting for sure.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So we've got all the women here, but there's also a man who has been waiting very patiently in the wings, and I want to. So Robert.
Oh, Robert.
That's right. I took an hour to look this old.
Well, it's the aging process. So,
Yes,
Robert,
I know.
What is the experience like for you as an actor to be part of this company, first of all, who does such phenomenal work? And, there's like this, these two things that are going on here, the preparation process for you, and then the fact that it's the one night.
It's not my first rodeo with MTG, but and everybody in the cast here, I know, even Trisha, we sang together many moons ago on a ship.
Yes, we did. It was
Yes,
so
we
much
did.
fun. We sailed the high seas together.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't get to see you in Adam's Family, but
Oh boy.
It was amazing.
I know. But I've known Kirsten a very long time, and when I saw she was directing, I thought I have to go in for this. And then when I saw McMartin had played the original role, I just, I had worked with him briefly on a production of Little Night Music in Los Angeles in '91, in which he played Frederick opposite Lois Middleton, and Glynis Johns played Madame Armfeld. For me, this is a whole bunch of circles coming around. Rachel York, I did Adam's Family with. And Christine Ebersol, I did a demo recording for Peter Rogers and Melnick, a duet with her as a couple of fighting Spanish lovers. She's crazy talented. Oh my God.
And I want to give a shout out to her latest CD, After the Ball. If you don't have it, get it. It's phenomenal.
There's nobody like her, and then the other huge circle for me, and I almost forget about this sometimes, but when Great Gardens came up, I remember I actually met Jackie O. I was fresh out of school. I was waiting tables in New York at Charlie's restaurant right next to Barrymore's across from the Royale. One of our managers booked side parties. And he said, "Do you want to work a party?" And I said, "Sure." He told me where to be and how much I was being paid, what I had to wear. I showed up at 5:00 on a club on the East Side, and it turns out it was a joint birthday party for John and Caroline Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We were setting up. We had very simple things to do, but it was like, and then about a half an hour before everyone arrived, we were lined up. There were about 8 of us, And Jackie came in and so warmly and graciously took each of our hands one at a time and thanked us for being there. Just as classy. You just melt, because I was, I grew up as a Catholic kid, and JFK was our Catholic president. And, and then years later, I met Christina Haig, who wrote that wonderful book about her love affair with John Jr. called "Come to the Edge." Gorgeous. So anyway, it's a lot of circles coming together, and a lot of wonderful friends who I get to play on stage with, and I get to play the bad guy.
Well, this is incredible, and I mean, it's also incredible that this is coming up after COVID. We've all coming back in, and Eileen, as I mentioned, and we'll mention this again, has a concert this Saturday night at the El Portal Theater. Eileen, what is your process in terms of approaching the older Mrs. Beale, someone who is so recognizable on film? What is your approach in terms of making it your own?
Well, with almost any role that I do, if it's already been done, I try not to listen too much to the album. Sometimes it helps me learn it a little bit, but I try not to listen to the interpretation that the actresses are giving it, so that I can make it my own. And in this particular one, it's so incredibly interesting that mostly I watched the documentary, just to kind of get a feel for the way this woman moved, the way she dressed, the way she speaks. So this is really kind of different because it's a real person that I'm interpreting. And I've been listening to the album, and I'm going to try not to sound too much oh God, her name's just gone out of my head. I'm sorry.
Mary Louise Wilson.
Thank you, Mary Louise Wilson. And I did see Betty Buckley do it. Oh my God, when she sang the song about the corn, she just blew me away. Betty was just incredible at that. But that's how I approach it. And what's interesting about doing these MTG shows, we do have a short period of time to rehearse. And so you have to do a lot of woodshedding on your own. And especially in a show like this. And we did Passion, and I played Fosca when we did Passion. And that was something I had to really, really think about and work out in my head. And this is the same kind of thing. I know that we don't usually do this, but I think Trish and I will get together and with Kirsten and really talk through what this relationship is like. Because you can't just throw this thing up, on the stage and hope that it's going to work. There's got to be that depth behind it. So I'm going to continue to look at the documentary, learn my music, and talk to my peeps, my girlfriends here, and try to figure out what we're doing and how we're feeling about these things. It's just going to be, oh my gosh, to have an opportunity to do this. Usually when you do stuff, it's you don't get to go this deep. So yay, it's really why you want to be an actor.
I have a question that I want to pose to both Michael and to Jerry. I'll start with you, Michael. Seeing other productions of this, I mean, you've given birth to this, and it's such a glorious musical. Seeing other productions of it, what is the experience like for you? Are you able to just sit back and enjoy from your perspective and just let go of everything that has transpired to get you to this point? What is the experience like for you sitting in an audience seeing this production on stage?
I've also seen it in Japan, the Japanese production. In Japanese, I've seen it in Brazil. It's been done all over the world, actually, in a lot of different languages. The thing is that when the producers were talking about doing an official tour. Uh, and the author said, you know what? Uh, let it let it just go out there and be licensed to people who want to do it, because basically there's a big Edie and a little Edie in every town. And they all will do it their way.
Wow.
And it will all have meaning that's particular to them, because it is about the parent-child relationship, and that's universal.
Yeah.
So I always find it different. By the time another winter and a summer town rolls along, I'm caught up in it. I look forward. It's even being done, I hear, in high schools, where they add an entire chorus of reporters so that everybody can have.
Oh, wow.
We very carefully left the reporters out, but they're back.
Well, Jerry, you experienced those reporters firsthand, when they descended upon Grey Gardens.
Oh.
But I want to ask you, seeing yourself portrayed, how many productions have you actually seen? And what is it that you feel that everybody captures in terms of playing you? And if there's one thing that they somehow miss, now's your time to get it off your chest.
No, Chief. First, Chief Michael and everyone, I applaud you. And thank God for your talent in portraying Mrs. Beale and Edie. Never mind me. It's really about them. I'm honored. I've seen the musical over 30 times. Michael and everyone invited me to Walter Kerr Theater so many times, and I did go with guests and Playwrights Horizons. I traveled the country. It's been to several cities. It was amazingly effective on people's souls. What I took away from just seeing the show was the general kindness they felt from Mrs. Beale and Edie, and their commitment to each other, which I knew about. And I'm not bragging, but there was one night. It was winter. The icicles were clinging to the broken panes of glass. Earlier that day, Mrs. Beale asked me to go collect some LP records from the library, bring them up. We'd play them later. I did. I put them on the Panasonic record player. I was freezing. I plugged in the heater, put my hands onto my lap, and the tune began to sound. And Mrs. Beale and her devoted daughter, Edie, sang together, tandem, I guess it's called. And it then made so much sense to me. Wow. These two women were so devoted to the arts, secondly, to themselves, and they're working on the arts. They love theater, so to be ostracized, whatever they call it, from the family. It just made so much sense when I saw the harmony that they're enjoying, and the winter slamming into the southern part of the mansion, snow blowing down the corridor. And I said, this is what it's all about, their devotion to their own convictions as women in a time when men ruled the world. And I think they try still to do that. And I think it's most unfortunate that Mr. Bouvier, rather, and the family ostracized Mrs. Beale and Edie. And I know this. Mrs. Beale showed up to her son's wedding dressed in a Faust, I may pronounce his name wrong, a big shot in the opera houses. And she performed one of the characters from his opera and showed up at her son's wedding late, 2 hours. And this is where the Cadillac, you may not remember because it wasn't seen in the videos, the film. In the driveway was a Cadillac, 1941. The air was still in the tires. The key was still in the ignition. And the door, driver's side, was ajar because the driver left the door opened. Vines had covered it. You couldn't close or start the car if you wanted to. that incident occurred when Schaefer, the chauffeur at the time, drove Mrs. Beale back to the mansion after a big disagreement in the church over her outfit. And Mr. Beale, I wasn't there, but I heard it. Mr. Beale said, "Okay, Edie, I had enough of your shenanigans," or something in that term. I'm not sure what the words were. And Mrs. Beale didn't pay mind. And she said, "Well, something or other." She left with the chauffeur to the mansion. The car was still in the driveway in 1969 when I arrived. It was still there, 1970. And that was the story of the car. Mrs. Beale was so devoted to herself and her daughter that no matter what the family deprived them of, and everything was deprived, the reason they had no garbage removed was because they couldn't afford the private sanitation in East Hampton town. So what did they do? They accumulated in the library, the maid's dining room, the old dining room, and even Edie tried to burn some of it, which was not a good idea because the chimney suits were clogged and it was not safe. She and I did try a fire once. It backfired into the house. It was terrifying. That was before she tried it earlier. We didn't try that again. Oh, they got to finish up.
Mr. Beale and the brothers wanted
Eileen and Kristen, Robert and Tal, Patricia and Michael, Richard. It's an honor to be alive, and it's a nice honor to know that you're going to show Mrs. Beale's song and dance to the world again. It's just
are you leaving us, Jerry?
I'm sorry?
Are you leaving us now?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, good. Okay. I thought you were saying goodbye, so I'm glad you're.
Oh, no, I wouldn't leave.
Glenn, I want to ask you, in terms of the process of choosing the shows that you choose, is there a certain criteria that you're looking for? Do you have a mission that you're trying to get across? What is your criteria in terms of how you make your selections with your shows?
Well, we do, and Eileen can talk about this as well. We do try to pick shows that are rarely done or rarely seen or we feel that they need to be seen again. And Grey Garden sort of fits into all of that. For our particular metropolis in LA, you know, we only have that one production for a limited time. So we felt there was a need for that. But that's the kind of, those are the kinds of shows that we pick. I mean, we've also picked crazy shows like, well, I was thrilled, like Minnie's Boys and oh, for God's sake, what else did we do? That was just, well, Zorba, we did Minnie's Boys and
Honeymoon in Vegas.
Honeymoon in
Honeymoon
Vegas.
in Vegas. It should have been you. Yeah.
Honeymoon in Vegas never came here. So we, you know, that was the only opportunity to see that. And Michael Corey, Warpaint is on our list. We're just waiting right now.
Speaking of Chris, you never saw the night I saw the show, she was out of the show.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Yes.
So
if they're interesting, and sometimes if we do an old show, like some old Cole Porter show, usually the scripts are just awful, and you know, we just sort of like to show them warts and all. You know, we can't do a lot of dancing. We don't do a lot of choreography. Sometimes just a little bit of staging. It's supposed to be a stage.
So we really, it's what Kirsten said before. Our company really celebrates the lyrics, the music, and the book. Mm-hmm. That is what it's like a living library for the evening. You know, we're not going to have everything will be suggested, you know, as far as the sets go. And even the costumes may just be a suggestion. Although here, you know, Trish will put a schmata on her head. That would be fabulous costume.
Yeah.
That's very easy.
And the big safety pin. We got to get that.
Yes.
It's really a celebration of our American art form, musical theater. And it's a thrill to present some of these shows to see on their feet. And
but to me, I mean, that's really the epitome of great theater, to leave all of the other elements to the imagination of the audience. And trust me, the audience is going to see everything that we've seen in other productions as well, especially if they know this story.
Yeah.
They're going to see the mansion. They're going to see all those things.
Oh, Kirsten will make sure they do. Yes.
Yeah. We do.
I
You know,
want
we
to ask
do.
you, Kirsten, how involved are you in the casting process, and what is the work like for you before you even walk into that first? How many hours of rehearsal do you get?
29.
Wow.
That.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that true?
Well, you know,
Officially, yeah.
Wow.
Officially.
But we, you know, we
I
work
think
on
that
it.
it's really important to cast the right people so that they can actually do what it is that is in front of them, which is kind of
Not for
Herculean.
the faint of heart, right?
It
Karen?
is not for sissies. Yes. So there's that. But yeah, I actually am very involved in casting, just the same way that I would be for any show. But the unique thing about this company is that the talent, by and large, exists within the company. So instead of calling from every community of Los Angeles, I'm calling mostly from Musical Theater Guild and its members, which is such a treat because they're so good.
I have a question that I'm going to ask Trisha and Tal and Robert, all the same question, so you can all think about the preceding answers before I get to you. I'll start with you, Trisha. Jumping into this character, and you're playing, these are real people as well, and finding the humanity in who these women and men were. Going about this show, what have you learned about your character that surprised you, that you really didn't know prior to working on this?
Well, I knew I'd seen the documentary years ago, and I saw the musical, so I knew a lot about the documentary portion of it and the musical, the songs, and the storyline that they portray in the musical. But you know what I didn't really understand until I did some more research is how much little Edie really wanted to pursue, or thought she could pursue, a career as a actress, that she had, and just her desire to do that, and kind of it, and being in the shadow of her mother. I mean, there's a lot I'm learning still, so it's hard to pinpoint one thing. But I think to also share with Eileen's process, I think the more actual footage I see of these two women, and the more research I do, the more that's how I will relate to the humanity of them, and being a mother of a very precocious daughter as well. And art, just trying to bring my own personal experience of being a mother into this role as Big Edie, and then portraying the daughter in the second act. I feel like I have just reading the script again and looking at the documentary footage, I have so much empathy for these characters, because I could possibly see myself as the overbearing mother, but then I also know what it feels like to be on the other side of that as a daughter. So I know that's kind of a lot. My brain's kind of all over the place, but I really do feel that the thing that I can bring into this production is the fact that I'm living that right now with a daughter that I love so much. And I only have one daughter. That's all I have. And I pour all of my love and passion into her, and she's a performer as well. And so it's just I really do relate to these women and the beauty between the love that they have for each other. So I just think it's going to be really fun to explore more and learn more about them. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Michael, everyone, had to leave because he had another event. We knew that he was going to have to sneak out. So thank you, Michael, if you see this later, for doing this.
And unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave too in a minute, because I teach private students.
Well, before you go, because what I normally do with the shows is I let everyone have a final word. So I'm going to give you your final word before you go. It could be about what we spoke about tonight. anything we didn't speak about, or just any message that you want to leave with everyone based on our discussion tonight.
Well, I guess just reiterating how wonderful and thankful I am to be a part of this group finally, this Musical Theater Guild family, which I lived in New York for almost 20 years. And when I moved back to Southern California, I felt like a piece of my heart was still in New York, and I just thought I'd never find my community. But just being a part of a group of people that really love theater as much as I do is just wonderful, that I find that I'm finding my people on the West Coast.
We're here.
And you know, everyone's so spread out here, but I really feel like we're all if we can connect with the Musical Theater Guild, it's like it doesn't make it so like LA's so spread out. You know, New York, it's so tiny, but here I just feel like I'm just so thankful to be a part of the community. So I'm honored that you'll have me, and I'm honored to get to work on this beautiful piece.
And congratulations and much success to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say goodbye, but I will see you all very soon. And thank you so much, Richard, for having us on your show. Thank you for setting it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Bye.
Sorry. Okay, Paul, same question.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, I will echo what Trisha was saying. I think, you know, I have the burden and the advantage in some ways of having the more fictional portion of the musical in Act One. You know, I mean, the things that we haven't seen in the documentary necessarily. And so with that, I feel very excited to kind of take it in my own direction. The things, with guidance, obviously, but I'm very excited to see sort of what can come. I think that something that surprised me about Edie as I've been looking more and more into her, like Trisha said, is just how much of a drive she really had and like zest for life.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like she, in her youth, given the script that I've been reading, like how much deeply she cared and wanted to be out there and celebrated and appreciated and be able to give to people. And I'm excited to kind of be able to lean into that and the romance and the dreaminess of her life. I think that's something that we didn't get to see in the documentary because we're seeing her now in a, you know, a pretty upsetting, like disheveled space. And I'm looking forward to being able to hopefully bring as much of that joy to life as possible in Act One.
Well said.
Robert, same question.
I've been mostly focused on the big picture and where he fits. And, you know, the surprise part is how cruel he can be to his own daughter because of his disapproval, how attached to the past, the old white man patriarchy, which is back. So it's terribly important to bring him to light because they're fighting tooth and nail to hang on to that, and it must go, you know. But he is his key things for me right now is his attachment to thinking of himself as aristocracy. He is a class. He you know, there's a classism, and I saw a little bit of this with the Kennedy party, and for them it's not so much attachment as there's a regal quality. I mean, when I met Jackie and Ted that night did a speech and read a telegram from Peter Lawford and his family. There was a certain sense of aristocracy there. With a Republican like Major Bouvier, it's much more attached and much more rigid. So I'm learning a lot, and now I have to delve into his very specific world and his actual background.
Wow, thank you for that. That's incredible. Well, we have gone over a little bit. I'm going to give my final comments, and then I'm going to give each of you a chance to have a final word. It could be about, again, I'm going to repeat this, anything we spoke about tonight, anything we didn't speak about, or just any last message that you want to leave everyone with. And I will pick the next person, and then you will pick the person after that, and so on. And the last person standing, when you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. I want to talk for a moment about my show tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. I only mention it for this reason. Tomorrow is Giving Hearts Thursday, and it's giving to our favorite charities. And thank God the work that you're all doing. I regret the fact that I am in New York and I can't be there, but you do wonderful work. And I want to say to everyone who's watching, you don't have to be in LA to make a contribution. They do great work, and it's important. If you can make a donation, I will have their information on the screen. And you can also, here it is, I'm going to do it right here. And you can make a contribution to this organization and keep them alive and running and doing all the work they do, because it's important. There's nothing like live theater. And God bless the fact that you're still doing this. How many years did you say, Glenn?
Like between 25 and 27. COVID makes it iffy. So we'll say 27.
Jerry and I were babies when you guys started. So, so anyway, I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Where are you on the spectrum, if you don't mind my asking, as far as ticket sales right now?
I don't know.
You can sell more.
They can sell more. So this is my request. Everybody who's watching who's in New York or on the East Coast, if you have a friend that's in LA, send them to the theater. It will be a wonderful gift.
Wow.
And they're going to thank you for it. There's nothing like it. So as tomorrow comes along, give to any organization that you can, because it's important that we do so. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Pick up the phone and call someone that you haven't spoken to in a while. I don't mean an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call, and let that person know how they matter in your life. It's important that we do this, whether here to hear it. I also say, to paraphrase something that was said to me, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. Some are in canoes, some are in rafts, some are pushing tugboats upstream, some are on yachts, some are in sailboats. It doesn't matter what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And with that, I'm going to leave. And Eileen, I'm going to turn it over to you. And much success to you also this Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
Be there.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's all yours.
Richard, you're so sweet. Isn't he just the sweetest? My
Yeah.
gosh. So what do I want to leave you with? Live theater. Come see live theater. The stuff that we do at Musical Theater Guild, it's always kind of an event because we just do it once. And we certainly have many tickets to sell. Usually they kind of sell at the last minute, and all the theater people show up, and it's just wonderful. So please share this with us. We'd love to see you. I love you all. I love this cast. I love Kirsten. Jerry, it has been such an incredible pleasure to talk to you. I mean, you're a rock star to me. So, so I will turn this over to Glenn.
Well, isn't that nice of you?
Hi, Glenn.
Well, hi. I just have to say that I really want to thank Richard Skipper, who's that is a special person, that Richard Skipper, and he is terrific. And for giving voice to our roving merry players, Musical Theater Guild. And Jerry, I have to say that I am very touched that you would spend an hour with us to give your incredible insights, to really give some depth to our production. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. And that's it. Support live theater. It's the best thing on earth. And I will give the baton to Miss Tal Fox or Tall Fox.
Oh,
Well, thank you. My goodness. Ooh, we're down to 4. It's like a little Brady Bunch windows going away.
Hollywood Squares.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just super grateful to have been a part of this evening. I am so inspired to delve even deeper now into everything we're doing, and I'm really grateful to all of you for being here. And Jerry, thank you so much for. I mean, I'm going to reiterate what everyone else said, but the depth that you can provide for us on the story was really, really fascinating, and I'm so grateful. And live theater and send love out and tell people you love them. I'm going to hand this on to our dear director, Kirsten Chandler.
Thank you, Tal. Yeah, I feel like a broken record, but Jerry, your real experience with this and these two fascinating women is a gift to listen to and to hear about. And I wish I could like sit and talk to you for 5 more hours. It's such an education. And I guess what I wanted to just leave with is just that I hope that we do it justice, like that's always, I want to like humble before the material and to know that, my job is to get it right. So I hope we do. And this has been so helpful in that regard. So thank you so much. And Richard, thank you for having us on here and supporting this tremendous group that I'm so honored to be part of. I think that this whole thing should end with Jerry's face. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Robert.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, I thought I'd be last because, my last name starts with a Y. I was always in the back of the class, right? You too, probably. Well, first, Richard, thank you. I've watched your show along the way, especially when you were interviewing friends like Pam Myers and Claudia Jellison. And it's a privilege to be here, but also thank you for bringing us all together and especially bringing us Jerry. Because, man, you rarely get the horse's mouth. And this man, you bring so much. And also, Jerry, so much love you gave to these women, support that I think they couldn't have survived without. So thank you for that. And then the last thing I just want to say is not only support live theater, but support all the arts. Like I have this beautiful photograph from the Ballerina Project. Support whatever art you love best. And that's all I have to say because I don't want to go too long. Jerry, it's all yours. Wrap it up. Take her home.
Thank you, Robert. Oh, wow. Hello, everyone. I'm beyond words, but I'll find them. I know. I'm from Brooklyn. Years ago, Mrs. Beale said to me, in your lifetime, our friendship would be of interest to many. That was, who knows how many, 50 years or so. It's true. I didn't understand much then. I don't know if I'm understanding a lot more now, but I want to thank you and everyone, Robert and Richard, everybody. Oh boy, if I don't remember your names because I'm trying to get everything in one sentence, it's not going to happen. But because of your talents, people, their lives will be seen again and heard of. All the years they lived in isolation and disparate, they were just alone with winters and summers and lack of food. You have given them life. And I know they're above us. They're guiding you and everyone to do the best. I know you will with this production. I just wish I could sing and dance, but I can't. But I can pray to God that you all enjoy this show and you will do the best you can. And you know what I'm also going to do? I'm going to put the link for this theater on tech. I'm not a technical person, but my boyfriend is Ted, and he will link this show and your theater to many fans who follow me for some reason or the other. Besides that, they'll have some advertisement for you. Thank you all so much. You made my life complete. Thank you. Bye.